Hello everyone and welcome back guys to a brand new video where today we're here finally back with my 20k Q&A video. Yes, I haven't done one of these since I hit 1,000 subscribers on the channel, which was all the way back, I want to say, in like 2018, 2017, 2018. It was a long time ago, and then sort of since then, we've sort of hit milestones at like a really weird point, but I thought 20k, we'll get on it, we'll make a Q&A video. And by the time this video is going out, we've already hit 22k. So a massive thank you to all of you guys for the continued support. 22k before 2022 was kind of like the after ultimate goal for the year. So I'm not going to set any more targets now for the end of the year. We're just going to enjoy the last couple of months. Obviously, we've got 6 more races of Formula 1, including the US Grand Prix today. We're just going to enjoy that and obviously just sort of see what we can achieve. Obviously, My Team Season 4 has now dropped as well. There are plenty of things going on in the motorsport world, but yeah, I cannot thank you guys enough for the continued support on the channel. You know, you guys are just smashing it at the park still at the moment. But today we're going to go through all of my Q&A questions. Now obviously some of these are fairly similar. Obviously a lot of you guys sort of want to know my personal thoughts on Formula 1, so those ones I'm going to sort of condense down as well for you guys. Obviously, if multiple people have asked the same question, I'll try and just feature one of them. But yeah, there were some interesting ones in here. Some that I was quite surprised by that you guys asked or were interested in, and then others that I sort of expected. Others generally that I thought were just sort of well known about me as well. But fair enough, obviously, different, you know, some of you guys watch different stuff on the channel, so that is completely fair enough. So let's dive into it then. Obviously, footage quickly in the background as well is from round 1 of the My Team Season 4, ready from the Bahrain Grand Prix, so I would definitely recommend going back and checking that out. Of course, that went live yesterday, so yeah, go back and check that one out if you did miss it then. But question 1, coming in from Lightning, long-time member of the channel, obviously regular commenter as well. What's your favourite team lineup throughout Formula 1 history? And bonus, if you're allowed, your most and least favourite F1 driver. Now, my favourite driver lineup of all time now still has to be Jenson Button and Lewis Hamilton at McLaren between 2010 and 2012. For me, you know, I was still a very young kid at that point. You know, JB and Lewis were the 2 drivers that I really supported. I always sort of followed the British drivers in Formula 1. And when I found out, obviously, they were going to be together at my favourite team as well, McLaren, it was kind of a dream come true for, yeah, someone that was very young in my life. Of course, that's probably never going to happen again for me in the world of Formula 1. But, you know, those 2 together, it was probably Hamilton's 3 worst years in the sport, though, it must be said. But those 2 together for me is, you know, a very young child who sort of didn't really understand, like, the inner workings of Formula 1, you know, like the team dynamics and everything like that. It was really cool to see. And yeah, I was a big fan of that lineup. Didn't quite get the success they deserved. Of course, McLaren really sort of dropped the ball, especially in 2012. But yeah, there was a lot of heartbreak through those years as well, of course, as we watched Sebastian Vettel basically clean the entire sport up. Also, my most and least favourite Formula 1 driver. This one did sort of get asked quite a bit. I am still a Lewis Hamilton fan at the end of the day. I got into Formula 1 around the same time. Obviously, he came into the sport and just sort of was immediately gravitated towards him as well there. And of course, my least favourite driver, I think you guys will know, some of you that watch the My Team series as well, it can't be anyone else other than Nikita Mazepin. He's just a hateful person at the end of the day there. But the less said about him, the better. Question 2 comes in from Freckles1473. My favourite Formula 1 livery ever. Now, this one is a rather difficult one, I'll be honest, because there's been some truly brilliant liveries in Formula 1 in history. I personally absolutely loved the black Mercedes from last year. I thought that thing looked absolutely stunning. You've got the late 80s. I still absolutely love the McLaren MP4-4. I also have a very soft spot for the Braun BGP as well. You know, that thing was truly iconic, and I think the aero of that year made that thing look even better. But yeah, for me, it's sort of a toss-up between those ones. You know, some of the early 2000s Ferraris as well, I'm sure, are very iconic. I also always love a Formula 1 car with martini stripes, so the 2014 to 2016 Williams as well were brilliant, as long as they had the red stripe on them as well there. But I think, sort of for everything else that it's tried to do around just the livery itself, I gotta go, yeah, I think with last year's Mercedes. No, that thing, I remember it pulling out of the Austrian pit lane. Obviously, we'd waited so long for Formula 1 to return, and there was obviously all these videos going around of Hamilton and Bottas doing laps with the Death Star music behind them. It was just such a power play by Mercedes as well there. Mad Mac JR asks, how long do you spend on F1 each day? Now, obviously, I'm guessing he just means the game by that. Normally, it takes about, so it depends, obviously, each day is different. Sometimes I'll only be on there for like an hour. Other days I'll end up being on there for about 3-4 hours, sort of after my normal day-to-day job as well. But, you know, sort of a My Team video takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours to record. Sort of other videos like the Last of Us we did earlier on only takes about 45 minutes. But yeah, so normally I'd say between about an hour and, let's say, generally sort of 3 hours a day. Obviously, when the game first comes out, when I'm trying to make a lot of content of it, obviously, for the pre-release stuff, I can be on there for up to sort of 7-8 hours a day, and then obviously you've got to remember on top of that, I'm editing videos as well. Jared Plays asks, how old are you? And a massive congrats on 20k. Well, thank you very much, Jared. I'm 21, yes. Some of you guys seem to think I'm a lot older. Some of you guys seem to think I'm a lot younger. I'm always sort of find it quite interesting to sort of understand how old you guys think I am. But yeah, I'm 21. It's on my Twitter bio. I've never quite understood why there's so much confusion about this. It's not something I particularly hide in my videos as well. Generally, a lot of the content creators around me in the F1 space are a bit older. But yeah, I'm sort of 21 and I always sort of felt like I was still one of the younger guys, sort of newer guys on the F1 scene as well there. Super Stevie and Fabian also asked, what's your earliest memory of Formula 1? Now, the first Grand Prix I sort of watched like the back end of 2007. Can't really remember anything of that. The first sort of vivid memory I have of Formula 1 is still Lewis Hamilton and his wet weather race at the British Grand Prix in 2008. I can still remember bits of that to this day, and obviously then I can definitely remember the championship decider that year as well. I remember, yeah, being sat there watching Brazil, being absolutely heartbroken until 2 corners from the flag. That one, yeah, was certainly one that I think that really got me hooked to Formula 1. Storm2 Strike asks, who do you want to win the 2021 championship and why? Now, to be honest, again, I'm a Lewis Hamilton fan. More than anything else, I want to see a fair fight between Hamilton and Verstappen. Now, obviously, deep down, I want to see Lewis Hamilton win the World Championship, but say, for example, like I said, there's 6 races to go the year at the time of recording this. If Verstappen absolutely cleans out all 6 races, just is quicker and more consistent than Hamilton, fair enough, completely deserves the World Championship. I'm just worried there's going to be more and more controversial contact between the two of them, and ultimately, I want this to be a clean fight to the championship. You know, we've seen the likes of Senna and Prost before. A couple of their world title battles were sort of tainted based on their crashes at Suzuka, so I'm kind of hoping, yeah, we can avoid too many more crashes, but let's be fair, there's going to be at least another 1 or 2 before the end of the year. Latifi Laspoon asked quite a few questions, so we'll run through these quickly. My real-life car, first of all, is a 2020 body Vauxhall Corsa SRI. I need, the time when I got it, I needed a car that could sort of reliably do a lot of miles. Haven't needed it since, to be honest, to do a lot of miles, but that is my current car. My dream car probably changes on a weekly basis. In terms of sort of like realistic dream car, I'm looking next time round in a few years' time. I do fancy a BMW M140i. Funny story, my mum actually used to own one, and that's why I absolutely love those as well. In terms of money, no object, though, again, that changes so rapidly. I'd love to own a McLaren F1, I think, for a lot of people. That is just truly an iconic car and ultimate bucket list as well. I've always been a fan of what Bugatti have done as well, but we're talking mind-boggling numbers here as well. I'm gonna have to get a lot more followers before anything like that is going to be possible. And I always had a bit of a soft spot for sort of like the Lamborghini Huracan Gallardo. I'd love to have something like that at some point down the line as well. Their least favourite team is a bit of a difficult one, to be honest. I've never really warmed to Ferrari. I've always sort of thought Alpine don't seem to achieve anything with the quite big budget they've got in Formula 1 as well there. But obviously, Haas as well I was a big fan of until, of course, they brought in Mazepin, but I can completely understand why they have. But yeah, I don't really think in Formula 1 I have a least favourite team. There's just like a team that I dislike. It's just teams that I sort of like less than other teams as well there. My least favourite driver, of course, we've already asked that. That was, of course, Nikita Mazepin. And what is a place you really want to visit? I'd love to see, obviously, because normally with this comes back to sort of more racing as well. I'd love to go to the Australian Grand Prix. I've actually been to the track before, but obviously not when there was a race going on. Mount Panorama is another one I'd really love to go to. Le Mans 24 as well is something I want to make a reality down the line as well there. And the Singapore Grand Prix, I've actually seen that circuit as well, but again, not during a race weekend. I actually flew into Singapore once as well there. But yeah, there's a lot of places I'd love to go to as well there. Doctor Who YT asks, what was the original reason you made YouTube videos? To be honest, I think the first videos I sort of made were actually, for those of you, this is going to be a real throwback for some of you guys, Forza Horizon 2 even, I should say. I was really, really good, or at least I thought I was really, really good at the final race of that game. You know, there were so many glitches and shortcuts to that. Those were sort of like the original videos I started posting on this channel, were like world record runs of that track. It was meant to be like a 15-16 minute race, and I could get it done in about 10.5 minutes if I got a run really well done there. You know, that game was so broken, there were so many shortcuts. But those were sort of like the original videos I made. Then I sort of like got back into the F1 games on F1 2015. I think I then actually sold F1 2015 before I bought it back later on in the game cycle. Of course, it was just such a broken mess. And then, of course, fell in love with F1 2016 and obviously did sort of league racing and career modes on there. And that was sort of really where I hit my stride as well there. So yeah, originally started out with Forza Horizon 2 content. Obviously, when Horizon 5 comes out next week now at the time of recording this, that's rather worrying to think about. We're going to be diving back into a lot of that on the second channel as well there. Ghost Fox even, sorry, I should say. That's accidentally a bit of a tongue twister there. Asked, when did you get into Formula 1? 2007 was the first sort of season I actually sort of watched as well there. Adrian asks, since when did you start playing F1? It must have been about 2006, 2007. The first F1 game I had was F1 2005 on the PS2. Can't remember a lot about that game except for the fact the graphics were horrendous. Is just about all I can remember. Maybe down the line, if I get a PS2, I will have to do a playthrough of that game as well. The Hendrix asks, what rig did you have originally when you started off with YouTube or sort of playing F1? My original one was a horrendous wheel stand that basically I had to rest it on my knees, otherwise it would just fall over, with a Thrustmaster TMX, which to this day I still recommend. If you're looking for a good budget starter wheel, Thrustmaster TMX, get the T3PA pedals. But yeah, that is still absolutely everything you need to start out with. I made quite a few esports competitions with that. You really don't need Fanatec gear if you're just after raw pace there. I sort of bought the Fanatec stuff because it was a bit more refined and made videos a bit easier to record, as well as the PlayStation and Xbox support on my old base as well there. Shrey asks, how did you get started with watching F1 and then making YouTube videos? I've sort of answered both of those as well. My dad originally got me into Formula 1, and then, like I said, obviously YouTube videos was sort of originally Horizon 2, and then obviously I jumped in to some different things as well there. Greek Fun Channel, which is your favourite F1 team? Now, generally in Formula 1, I sort of follow the drivers more than the teams. I obviously like Mercedes, obviously with what they're doing with Lewis Hamilton. McLaren I've always been a fan of. I did really love Force India and Racing Point, but obviously now with Stroll and Vettel, I've really got no sort of reason to really love them anymore. I always sort of like rooted for them as the one on the spot, obviously during the Checo years as well. Other teams that I've liked in the past? I'm trying to think. It normally, again, like I said, depends. I sort of follow the drivers more than the teams, and I sort of support them a bit more than. What model of Formula 1 car is your favourite? From Burger and Fry? I always quite like the 2009 spec cars. They were always really, really stunning, just because obviously they were very, very clean after the weird sort of rules of 2008. But I'd still argue in recent years the cleanest cars were the 2017 ones. As much as I'm a fan of the Halo, it really did sort of take some of the aesthetic out of the cars as well there. But yeah, 2017 I think was still, across the board, some of the best looking Formula 1 cars we've had in a long, long time in the sport, consistently over the course of the grid as well there. Billy asks, if you were to join F1, what team would you join? Genuinely any team that would have me. I'd love to do something in Formula 1 at some point down the line. Never really sort of worked out how that would come about, but you never know what goes on in the digital space down the line there. But I think if I could join any team, I'd love to go to McLaren. Mainly, obviously, for the history. Again, like I said, I've never really sort of warmed to Ferrari the same way a lot of people have. But I'm sure if they came knocking with an offer, I certainly would consider it as well there. Jamie asks, can you make goulash? No, in a word. And then also my most embarrassing story. I used to do a podcast. In fact, I still do, actually. I try and keep it quite well hidden with a guy that is, yeah, very, very odd. I can't remember his name exactly off the top of my head, but we discussed Formula 1 on there. That is rather embarrassing, the fact I still do that as well there. Games Clipper asks, will Kubica win the title? Well, it's looking likely that he'll beat Nikita Mazepin in the championship, which I think is funny enough in itself. But, yeah, maybe, if he does really, really well in Formula 1 and makes 10 times points. And no, could he even win? Yeah, no, he could still just about scrape it up with 10 times points in Abu Dhabi to finish off the year there. But I wouldn't be putting any money on it if I were you, mate. Yes, Joshi asks, who do you support at Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton? Obviously, like I've said, Lewis Hamilton I'm a fan of, but I'm just hoping for a clean fight between them. And then, by the way, love from India. Man, keep up the good work. Thank you very much for the support as well, mate. The next one I was rather quite surprised by. Tennis Geek 07. Why did you choose not to try and appear in a co-op with Jarno Opmir? That would boost your viewer numbers a lot, I think. 2 reasons mainly for that. One, of course, Jarno is with Veloce Esports, and I've got no issues with the team, but obviously they tend to just work within themselves. Obviously, I'm not part of Veloce, so really, yeah, recording videos with anyone sort of in that group would be incredibly difficult. And far more importantly, Jarno would absolutely smash me if we did a co-op career mode. Obviously, he is the pinnacle of F1 esports, and I used to be a lot quicker, but yeah, I certainly would have absolutely nothing to compete with him against. I think we'd have a fairly close battle if he was in a Williams and I was in a Mercedes, but yeah, apart from that, he would just destroy me on the F1 games. Connor asks, do you notice how much you say as well there? Loving the My Team Career Mode videos. I absolutely, like, when I go back and edit through videos, I really do notice it. Obviously, I live com a lot of the videos I do on the channel, so I'm trying to concentrate on driving and commentating at the same time, which can be difficult. I am really trying to work on not doing it as much as possible, but yeah, it's just something, some days I'll say it far too many times. It does annoy me as well, and I completely understand why it's a bit of a meme on the channel as well there. Yerpa asks, congrats Matt, this is a day to remember. My question is, what is the reason you started making videos and how much time do they take on average? Now, of course, like I said, a lot of different videos take a lot of different time throughout the entire process, so generally a My Team video takes, like I said, about 2 hours to record. I then have sort of a very, very overcomplicated sort of video setup to how sort of I make videos, so they get put on archive drives and things like that, so I can then go back through and make shorts down the line. So moving files into the right places, I then have a recording PC as well as an editing PC. So that takes about half an hour to an hour to get all the files in the right places. Editing takes about an hour to an hour and a half, depending on the project. Obviously, things like the pre-season stuff takes a little bit longer as well there. And then, of course, rendering the video is actually very quick now because I've got a new PC. And then, of course, uploading takes horrendously long as well. So I'd say the entire process, sort of like editing the video from like recording and everything like that, takes about 6-7 hours, I want to say, and then uploading probably takes about another 7-8 hours as well there. That's why generally I upload my videos overnight, otherwise I just wouldn't get a chance to do them as much as possible there. So yeah, about the entire process takes about 15-16 hours, but again, obviously a lot of that I'm asleep whilst the video uploads, so it's not too bad. Tazif, who of course is a channel member, can we see a room that you do a sim racing in? I've done an upload of this fairly recently where I did a room tour, but I'm going to be doing another one rather soon once I've sort of got my new Fanatec DD wheel all set up and everything like that. I'm definitely going to do another one of those. But yeah, that will be probably in a couple of months' time when I got everything sort of sorted with my room as well there. Ben asks, how many races have you been to in person? I've been to 3. I went to Belgium in 2015 and 2018, and then Austria in 2017. Which one was your favourite and why? I think, to be honest, it must have been the Belgian Grand Prix in 2015, just because I was sat at Eau Rouge and you sort of had, like, the iconic Grosjean podium out of everything that happened that weekend as well. It was sort of like the race that I can remember the most of as well. I think Austria 2017 and Spa 2018 were pretty snooze fest. Obviously, Belgium 2018 had the iconic 4 wide down the back straight. That time around, I was actually sat at the bus stop chicane, so didn't really sort of get to see much of that. Their qualifying, though, for Belgium 2018 was absolutely iconic, though, and that'll stay with me for the rest of my life. Is it worth the experience of viewing a race in person? I would absolutely say so. It's definitely something that I think a lot of you guys should try to experience once if you can. I would definitely say, obviously, for me, Belgium is a bit of a road trip with my dad and things like that. We actually flew to Austria and then had a nightmare getting home from that Grand Prix as well. But yeah, Belgium, I would definitely say, you know, if you're living in the UK, I would go to. It does say here you're an American viewer. I was going to go to Texas this year for the race, but with, obviously, what you can't say, 19 raging there and coupled with the cost, I just couldn't justify it at the end of the day. Yeah, I can understand, I think, a lot of people that, sort of like the American people I follow on Twitter, have very much been saying that, you know, COTA looks like an interesting event from that perspective this year as well. But I think, you know, it's definitely worth something I would recommend doing at some point down the line. But of course, Formula 1, it's a bit of a lottery with how good a race you're going to get. Maybe with next year's cars, it's going to mean you can not guarantee a great race, but you can have a lot better chance of it as well. But yeah, I would definitely say try to go a race if you can down the line there. And the last questions come in then from Marcus. These are sort of some more quickfire ones, personal ones about me. Where am I from? I live in the southwest here in the UK, which is probably the least motorsport orientated part of the UK. I've only got one track that's within like an hour-and-a-half drive, and that is Castle Combe, which no one outside of Britain has probably ever heard of before. Obviously, again, how old am I? Yes, I'm 21. Do you have a family? Yes, I've got, and then that sort of leads into the next question, sister, brother, parents, own kids. So I've got, obviously, a mum and a dad that I live with, and then my sister as well, who is younger than me. Don't have any of my own kids, nothing like that. Have you learned another job? My sort of more day-to-day job, I work in a supermarket here in the UK. It sort of works quite nicely for me. Obviously, with everything that happened with COVID, I actually left my old job. But it does mean I can work really early in the mornings and then get home and make YouTube videos as well. So it generally keeps me quite busy between the two, you know, sort of I'm up at about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and then normally sort of I've got videos sorted by like 8, 9 PM at night. So it's quite an intense schedule as well there. Favourite hobbies though, again, sort of YouTube is technically still a hobby for me at the moment. I think some of you guys seem to think it's my full-time job just because I'm able to get quite a lot of content out, but truth is, yeah, I just work a lot. But apart from that, obviously, again, I love sort of racing just generally, you know, I'm always playing racing games here or there, whether it's iRacing, Forza, anything like that, you know, I always just loved racing and driving games as well. Other hobbies, though, I've got a new puppy that keeps me busy. I've got 2 chocolate Labradors. They're always quite a good laugh as well, but they sort of take up a little bit of time. Like I said, obviously, where I'm just generally sort of working or making YouTube videos as well, I don't do a huge amount of other stuff, which now saying it sounds really bad. But yeah, those are sort of like the main things that keep me busy as well there. But I think that does it though for this video. A massive thank you to all of you guys that have asked questions down below. Of course, if you've got any other questions, leave them down in the comments. I'll try and go through as many as I can as well there. But yeah, again, a massive thank you for all the support on the channel at the moment. We smashed through 22k. I'm not going to set any more goals for the year. We've hit 1k on TikTok as well after only posting on there for a couple of weeks. So thank you all as well for that. I feel so old using that platform, but you know, we're getting into it, trying to sort of expand the 212 industries as well, that if you will. But thank you all for the continued support. You guys have been insane on F1 2021. And yeah, we'll be back tomorrow ready for more of the My Team Season 4. We're heading to Imola. I'm really hyped for that race. Make sure you guys don't miss it. A massive thank you for the continued support from all our channel members. If you want to be featured in these end clips, make sure you click the join button down below. But yeah, once again, a massive thank you to the Travesty, Patrick, Chuan, David, Ben, Aiden, F. Stathios, Cato, Sean, Johnny, McBlam, and Mighty Spork for becoming channel members. The support is really, really appreciated.